going to the charts, these longer term charts, again, we could plot Bitcoin's movement out. If you're looking at this, it looks pretty darn good. This is on a monthly scale. You have certain times where it's great to be accumulating towards the bottom. And then you have times where you start reaping the rewards from the accumulation because Bitcoin starts going up and forms a new all-time high. We're at that point where, yeah, we're about to reap those rewards because Bitcoin is breaking out and heading higher towards its next high. That's why I believe 2024 will be so good and 2025 will be even better because it just moves according to plan and always has. And the halving event is less than 5 months away. And then afterwards, that's when it gets good. And a spot Bitcoin ETF approval is going to come sometime between now and March. There's just so much to look forward to. Short term, where can Bitcoin go? What can we expect? Right? We already hit this first target. We just hit it the other day at 36,000, right? We have to retest it again. That's a level that, there's a lot of these levels, like Fibonacci levels. This is a cipher pattern, but whatever the case, there's a lot of these patterns that Bitcoin tends to follow when it goes up or down, right? But right now we're obviously going to up phase. The next point after breaking through the 38.2% mark will be the 61.8 mark, which is around $48,000. Now, is that going to come by the end of this year? There's a lot of other things that I've shown that say that, yeah, we could end the year in 50, 53. If we get a Bitcoin spot ETF approval sometime this month or next month, can we hit up to 40s and possibly 50,000 by the end of this year? It's certainly possible. We just don't know when it's going to be approved, but it's going to happen. And when it does, there's going to be so much enthusiasm and so much money flowing in right away, we will definitely pump up. And that's only the beginning. And then 2024 and 2025 is when those ETFs will really ramp up and the billions that are sitting on the sidelines will flow in and it'll become trillions. It won't even be billions. It'll be trillions flowing in. So that's what we have to look forward to. Moving past that, what else is there? I mentioned about Bitcoin-related stocks. Block and Coinbase, they both reported and made enormous amount of money off of Bitcoin traders. Block reported $2.43 billion in Bitcoin revenue, a huge increase, obviously. People are getting excited again about Bitcoin and about crypto, so of course they're going to buy and the trading fees are going to go up. It's really that simple. If you look at their total revenue, 43% comes from Bitcoin. That's a huge, huge chunk. If Block or Cash App didn't allow Bitcoin trading, man, their revenue would be way, way under, right? But again, that's the power. That's the power of Bitcoin. It's why you want to get in early, because Block, or it used to be Square, right? They were one of the very first to allow Bitcoin trading at a time when it wasn't that readily available. And now it's paying off for them pretty nicely, right? So good for them. Coinbase is also up. Mining stocks like HODL and Mara, they are also up because, of course, the enthusiasm around Bitcoin is coming back. And, of course, they're the ones that's going to benefit the most because they hold the most Bitcoins. All these miners, they hold so many Bitcoins and they keep mining and then they keep holding. It makes sense. It makes sense, right? It's like if you can invest in those oil companies before they got big. Right? It's kind of like that. These Bitcoin mining companies will be among the biggest on the planet in 10 years, probably. Yeah, like 10 years, 15 years. They'll be among the biggest in the planet, right? So it makes sense to invest in them early before they become so huge. Same thing with Microstrategy and Michael Saylor. Of course, I showed this before, but I'll show it again to prove my point. Bitcoin strategy works. Since MicroStrategy's decision to basically go all in on Bitcoin, their stock is up, Bitcoin is up, and versus everything else that's up, not even comparable. That's what happens. Bitcoin tends to fall very fast in these cycles, yes, but also tends to come up really fast, faster than everything else out there. And in the end, when you add it all together, nothing comes close to the performance of Bitcoin. It's not even close. It is definitely definitely the right strategy. If you want to opt out of high inflation, you want to opt out of buying power being robbed of you, you want to opt out of your government because you don't believe in them anymore, you opt into Bitcoin, right? It represents personal freedom. It represents store of value, represents, a hedge against everything. It just makes sense, right? Kathy Wood agrees Bitcoin over gold, hands down, not even a contest, okay? It's a hedge against inflation and deflation, according to Kathy Wood. And it's not just her. Like, there's so many billionaires and CEO of companies. They're all saying the same thing now. They're all coming to light. They realize that they have ignored this thing for so long, and it has hurt them financially. And now they are all doing 180, with the exception of a few, because they know Bitcoin. They now realize Bitcoin is the greatest thing ever. All right. Now, what's this massive indicator? This is really simple, and I've shown this before, but it's staggering. If you look at the HODL waves, you look at this, the number of Bitcoin being held is at an all-time high. 88.5%. 88.5% of the supply has not moved in 3 months. Think about that. Close to 90% of all the Bitcoins out there in existence has not moved in 3 months. Now, if you expand that out to, say, a year, it drops down to about like 75%, but still, it's enormous amount. No one holding Bitcoin at this point really wants to sell. They're not taking profits at this point. They're only adding more to their portfolio. These people that have been holding for years upon years upon years, their conviction is only getting stronger. So, if you just think about it for a second, if you just try to compute, like if this was any other asset on the planet, let's just equate this to gold. If you had 100% like proof that 90% of gold was being held and not being used and sold or being, made into jewelry or anything like that, think about how high gold's price would go, right? It would be the same thing with oil. It would be the same thing with copper. It would be the same thing with any kind of commodity or any kind of precious metal. So just think about that for a second, right? We could actually see this. We could actually measure it with Bitcoin because it's digital, right? 90% has not moved for like basically 3 months. And it's over 75% if you go back a year. That's an enormous amount being held by the holders. And of course, that is the reason why Bitcoin is so strong, why it has decoupled away from US markets, and why it looks like it's going to break out. And that breakout is imminent because there's just so much buying power right now and so little supply to go around. It's just so simple if you think about it.